I'm Freddy Ford, and this is the Protein Bros Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Protein Bros Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Wasserman, and with me, as always, my co-host, Kyle Combs.
Very pumped for this podcast today. Got our protege, Fred Ford, on the mic. I'm excited to
We're here. We're ready
to interview him.
Fred Ford has an incredible story, and we were just buying our time as to when we were going to bring you on here. So I'm super psyched to have you on, buddy.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to be here, but I'm also really thankful. I mean, there's before we get too far into things, man, there's a lot of things in my life and a lot of skills that I have now that I've always wanted. I wanted to have, just different abilities to do, and those are people skills or business skills or whatever. And you guys essentially just unlocked the door and showed me I could walk through it. So I'm really thankful, man. This is cool.
Well, we love you and appreciate you, but let me just get started with this podcast to get this out of the way. You're not allowed to have your classic humility today. Today, you got to tell us about the cool shit.
I'll do what I can.
Sound good?
Good.
If you're wondering...
Whoa, where is this humility that you speak of? Because, dude, every time I'm around Freddie, he's telling me he could beat me at
That's
something.
because you stir the pot first, Kyle.
Well,
yeah, Kyle
I have to assert my dominance.
It's legitimately insufferable to be around Kyle when he's around Freddie because he's always constantly trying to challenge Freddie to things that Freddie would beat him in. But neither here nor there. I also need to...
Whose fucking side are you on?
I also need to preface here that my voice is a little raspy. You might like it, you might not, and I'm sorry. That's it. Anywho, let's get started. Fred Ford grew up in St. Charles, a.k.a. 636 The Struggle, a.k.a. The Chuck.
That's right.
I also was from St. Charles, so that's what we like to say. Anywho's.
So for everybody who's listening that might not know this already, Freddie is our district manager of our stores here in Kansas City.
Kind of important to point that out.
Important to kind of give you some background as to who Freddie is. If you guys don't already know, you probably have seen him if you've been in our stores. But he came to work for us how many years ago now?
Just over almost
4
5
years ago now, and he is definitely a linchpin of our culture and a linchpin of what we've been able to do here in Kansas City and what we're going to be able to do, moving forward. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast. I'm excited to let everybody know about your story because I think you have a great story. I think your perspective on certain things and the things you've gone through in life, a lot of people haven't been able to go through those things, and I think that it's benefited you in a lot of different ways. So anyways, I'm excited to get into it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to dive deep into what a lot of people
deep dive.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know about Freddie, and that is Freddie actually was a professional athlete. He was a paid professional athlete before he went to college, or it was like a
professional badminton, right?
You did a year of college.
Yeah.
Badminton.
Was that correct before you got
drafted?
I
did 2 years of college. So grew up in St. Louis, and then I signed to play baseball at Jefferson County Community College, which most people think is at Jefferson City. It's actually in Jefferson County, which is about 30 minutes south of St. Louis. Jeffco had notably a really good baseball program, and I had one other junior college offer, and that was my only offer. So I played 2 years of junior college baseball, and then technically as a sophomore in college, I got drafted by the Royals in 2012.
So you went to having 2 offers to being drafted in the 7th round?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Damn. You climbed those ranks real fast.
Yeah. I was talking with one of our guys earlier today. I always had this sense of belief that I would get there. And so, but yeah, out of high school, man, I was pretty raw. I was still about the same frame at about 195 pounds. High school kids these days are just so more advanced. I mean, they're just studs compared to what I even feel like a high school kid was in 2010. So I went to junior college just as a raw, skilled athlete. I was going to pitch and hit if things worked out. So I went primarily as a pitcher. And I had, oddly enough, another offer from Neosho County, which is not too far away from where we are here in Kansas City. And they were going to give me a decent scholarship, and Jeffco was going to give me a good one, and they were an hour away from home. And I guess being somewhat of a homebody, I was like, well, that's an easier drive for laundry or money,
Sure.
I had a couple other junior colleges tell me that they didn't have a roster spot for me that were in the same conference as Jeffco. So, of course, I never forgot that. But went to Jeffco first year and had a pretty good year. If you're going to be in junior college and get to a bigger school, you got to play really well in baseball. So I had a good year, and then I went and played summer ball in Pennsylvania and got it handed to me every night. I was playing against guys that were just better than me. And that opened my eyes. I was like, man, I got to get a lot better.
Levels to this.
Yeah. And so I went back that fall and man, I went back to work and knew I had to get a lot better. And then my sophomore year, I played really, really well. So
Well enough to get drafted in the 7th round, huh?
yeah, I had a good season. Almost led the nation in RBIs, home runs, pretty much any offensive category. And that happened really quickly. I signed to go to play at Western Kentucky from Jeffco, be a Hilltopper. And it turned into like, hey, I'm for sure going to get drafted. And then followed. Teams will draft you and own your rights for a year so they can contact you and talk to you and see how things are going. And then the draft comes around the next year. So it turned into where it was going to be a draft and follow situation. And I was cool with that. I was like, of course you start asking yourself the question, like what kind of money is it going to take for me not to go to college? What does the organization look like? Because if you get drafted in the 25th round, your chances to fail are fewer.
Right.
You get less opportunities. You're drafted in the 5th round, it's one thing that they pay you more money. You're just going to get more chances to fail than the undrafted free agent or the 30th round guys. And so we started playing in the playoffs. We had some really good teams at Jeffco, and we went through the playoffs and played some guys that played some really good competition. And I played the best I'd played all year. I was smashing good pitching. I was just really on a high. And it went from the week of the draft, like it'll be a draft and follow, to being at the Junior College World Series, having like the best 3 or 4 game stretch of my life, and the Royals being like, can you fly to Kaufman tomorrow for a workout? And I was like,
You serious?
Yeah. We had just lost our last game, and our junior college team, are like brothers, any small time school. And so everybody's like sad, and I'm sitting there talking with the area scout for the Royals, and he's like, I got a plane ticket for you in the morning. Can you get on the plane? We'll work out tomorrow. I was like, well, duh,
Yeah.
And so I went and had that workout, ran the fastest 60 time in my life, showed a good arm from the outfield, took a really good BP session and talked to some people at the Royals. And that night at the game, Dayton Moore and Lonnie Goldberg, who shops with us, by the way, pretty cool, full circle. They're like, well, Freddie, what's it going to take for you to sign? I just basically told them I was a signable guy, which meant like I'm not going to try and leverage my way into getting a bunch of money and then just go to school and you'll waste a draft pick on me. I was like, I'll sign if you give me what I want. And so, we left that meeting and they're like, well, we can guarantee you we're going to draft you in the top 10 rounds for at least $100,000, right? At least, if not better.
That's a $100,000 sign-on bonus.
Yeah.
Correct. So they're giving you $100,000 at once.
Just to say yes. Yeah.
Wow.
For tax purposes, if it's over a certain amount, it just comes in multiple checks, so you don't get taxed as hard. But it was just like at least that, right? And I drove home to St. Louis from Kaufman that night, and I was like, man, I'm not going to school. And then the draft was like 2 days later, and that morning, oddly enough, draft morning, I remember waking up and thinking like, man, my life is going to change today. Like it's going to be different. This is what I was working for pretty much my whole life, and so we just, again, it happened so quick. So we threw together some family to come over, friends' family. It was open. It was an awesome day outside. And so everybody's outside and the draft was coming on in the afternoon. And I remember talking to my dad and he was looking at me, and my parents were never like big into sport. I mean, my mom was good at sports. My dad didn't play a lot of sports. And so he was like, hey, if we ever need to have a conversation or your phone rings, you can go in this spare bedroom. So I went in there and my phone lit up at like, early afternoon. And the first round of the MLB draft is the night before. So they always do the first round on TV, and then the next day is like rounds 2 through 20, and then the other rounds they don't even televise; they just put it through on the internet. And so my phone rang, and it was a scout for the Phillies, and it was in the 3rd round. He was in the 2nd round. He called me. He's like, "Hey, 3rd round's coming up. We got the 5th pick." He offered me, man, I think he said, would you sign in the 3rd round with a 3rd pick for like $250,000 or something like that?
You said absolutely.
And I said, man, of course it took me by surprise. Right? I hadn't been talking to the Phillies
At all, yeah.
No, yeah, I talked to
Your
Boston.
first time you
I
talked
talked
to
the Royals. Yeah, he called me. He's like, hey, this is so-and-so with the Phillies. Are you signable guy, 3rd round at this amount? And believe it or not, my first instinct was no.
Going to freaking play in Kansas City.
Well, not even so much that, right? It was, they offered me like $200,000. That slot value that slot value on that draft pick was like $750,000, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, whoa, that's a budget pick. You know, they're saving money on me to get to somebody else.
Yeah.
And which is cool. You know, it's whatever. But I'm not going to be devalued in a sense like that. I didn't know anything about the Phillies.
But why would they? So let's help us all understand if they're betting on you in the third round. I mean, that's a third round draft pick. That's a huge pick for them. Mm-hmm. You're saying that that's a value pick because they thought that like you would definitely sign for that amount, and so they just thought, you know, we'll budget here because we blew our budget on round 2 and 1.
Right. Well, either that or they're thinking so. I guess to backtrack a little bit, 2012 was the first year they implemented draft restrictions, right? So
what are these restrictions?
In the first 10 rounds, I think they gave you a combined $5 million that you could sign those first 10 rounds.
Gotcha.
Or maybe it was something like 7 or 8 million. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It may have to do with your market cap or whatever. But the year prior was when I think the year Bryce Harper signed. He was the first overall pick. He signed for $10 million. And so what teams would do is
as a high school 18-year-old, by the way,
graduated early.
Yeah.
17. Yeah.
Phenom. Yeah.
He graduated a year early, went to a junior college, and then signed for $10 million. But I mean, it's Bryce Harper. It's panned out all right. So what teams are doing is they would, you know, draft a guy in my situation in the third round. They'd pay him $200,000, but they would have this other guy that they would have in their deck of cards, and they draft him in the 15th round, but they would pay him like $700,000. And it eliminated teams' ability to do that because you were faced with pretty big taxes and pretty big fines after the 10th round if you overpaid $100,000. So if you paid a kid $500,000 in the 50th round, you were going to pay heavy taxes on that kid. And the reason I know that is because it was the new restrictions, but the Royals had a kid like that they way overpaid for, and he was a bust. He had the yips real bad and like never recovered. Right. So they paid taxes on him, and he was always kind of labeled as that kid, which kind of sucked for him. And he had a chip on his shoulder, so he didn't make a lot of friends. And anyways, so they were going to try and draft me early to save money to pay their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round pick that they were going to kind of sneak in there under the table, I guess.
Right.
So anyways, they called and I said no.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
You said no to $200,000.
I don't want to be drafted in the third round.
It was something, you know, and to be honest, I don't remember the dollar amount. It was more than I signed for sure.
Yeah.
But it also was like, if you're going to draft me at that spot, you're going to pay me at least the majority of what that's worth.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's the whole point. But yeah, to your credit, Jeff, I mean, it is a third round pick. You know, like it's if you think about an NFL team doing that, it's bananas.
How many players are in? Yeah, how many players are in a draft or in a round?
So my year was the first year they started doing 40 rounds, and there used to be 50.
Yeah, but how many people are in a specific round?
31 teams. You know,
yeah, 25 to 30.
Everyone gets one pick per
yeah,
round.
I don't know exactly how it shakes out or if it's different now, but yeah, it's normally like that.
Yeah, and crazy. What's crazy about the MLB versus the NFL is the NFL has literally twice as many players on a team as a Major League Baseball team, but there is no minor league for the NFL.
Right.
So you have to fill up your minor leagues as well as your professional teams, and no one is getting drafted and going straight to major leagues. Very rarely.
Very rarely.
Very rarely, but it happens, but it's rare. And so you're really just seeing how they pan out in minor leagues, let them continue to develop. So that's why there's 50 rounds, 40 rounds. And, you know, what's crazy,
it's kind of like JUCO, I can name off, you know, when you get into JUCO.
Fill the roster and see who pans out.
Fill the roster and see who sticks around.
Dude, but like, I mean, there's a million Hall of Famers that Freddie got drafted before in the sense of the same round, you know. Dude, Albert Pujols was a 13th rounder.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, in of my draft class, 2012, the Royals were really good about this. They signed the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th. They signed like 28 of the 40 rounds, which is rare. You'll have probably 40, 50% of the guys sign because your later rounds, if they're high school kids, right? Had I been drafted in high school in the 30th round for, you know, $20,000, I'm not signing. There's no way.
Right.
I'm going to go develop because, again, once you sign that pro contract, you lose your amateur status. You can't go roll over and suck in the minor leagues and then go play in college. and then develop and then get redrafted. You can't do that.
The second you play pro, you're a pro.
You're a pro. Yeah. So I lost all amateur status for baseball. I could have gone back to play another sport. And there's a couple of guys that have done that.
Badminton.
Yeah. Badminton or freaking.
I mean, there's a lot of famous
Good with
people
the
that
shuttlecock.
played football for
Cricket.
4 years and then went back and started over with baseball, like Tim Tebow, like
Right.
Drew Henson. Remember that guy?
I do.
Yeah, he was a Cowboys.
Quarterback.
He was the first. Do you know who Drew Henson was the starter over? This is a classic story right
It's
here.
a 30 for 30. Isn't it?
So Drew Henson was a Michigan quarterback, and he was incredible quarterback, right? He was like
Tom Brady.
He started over Tom Brady. Tom Brady as a senior at Michigan wasn't even a starter for half the season because they were trying to push Drew Henson because he was like the number 1 overall recruit in the country.
Yeah.
And every time Tom Brady came in, he came back and won the game for him because Drew Henson sucked.
Yep.
But he went back and played baseball.
Yeah. Tom Brady, 199th overall.
Yeah, 199th overall,
so
6th rounder.
This isn't a Cinderella story. I'm not in the bigs right now, just getting out of a lockout. But it ended up panning out great, man. I did and have always had a lot of respect for the Kansas City Royals, top to bottom, from Dayton down to the guys in the clubhouse who take care of your meals and your logistics stuff with your gear and your bags. Like, they're first class. I believe in the way that they do things, and it doesn't always translate to winning, obviously, right? But you saw it come to fruition in 14 and 15 when I was a part of the organization and they won a World Series. I mean, it was them grooming a core group of guys. I mean, if you look at the Royals minor league system from 2013 to 2017 or 18, championship after championship after championship. But that doesn't obviously always mean that it's going to translate to the major league level.
Yeah.
Right.
So talk about, you talk about how you got drafted, but let's talk about how you exited the organization. How was that? Explain to everybody, what that process was like, and more importantly, what you learned through that process.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal question, but I also want to hit on you made a boatload of cash as a young kid.
Yeah.
A boatload of cash.
Let's talk about what's a stupid thing that you spent money on.
Well, I'm saying, like, Kyle's going to fast forward to like a really depressing ass day. I was
I'm
like,
sorry.
can we have fun with the money first?
Listen,
Yeah.
Like, so Freddie signs this fatty deal and it's over 100, it's over six figures. We don't have to get really, really specific. Yeah. Can we get specific?
Yeah.
he was
Can we get
swimming in
specific?
cash.
It was $125,000. I was 19. I just turned 19.
And he didn't buy one, guys. What did you buy? You bought two.
Not in succession. I bought I bought a new car. And to be fair, I was driving my 95 GMC Jimmy that the oil pump blew up on like 2 weeks
You would
prior.
kill to have that back, though.
Dude.
A 95 Jimmy would be
Yes,
baller.
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my wife Reagan, her first car was basically a Jimmy too. It was an Oldsmobile Bravada.
I wish I had. I wish I had my '98 Cherokee back.
Yeah, I would do anything to get that Jimmy back. But the oil pump blew up in it, so I was driving my parents. Like, you remember those giant navy blue GMC Envoys that, like, the back of it opened up? It basically is the car you don't give to your 18-year-old junior college son because he could fit 14 of his buddies in it.
Dude.
Yeah.
And while I was driving that, and it was terrible, and it was my mom's. It wasn't even mine. My parents were using my dad's truck, and I got drafted, and I was like, well, what a coincidence. I just got some money, and I need a car. And so, of course, I just did what you do when you're 19. I bought a brand new car.
Chrysler 300 with rims.
Stock wheels. I didn't go that hard on it. But it was a car that I'd wanted for a long time, so I was super, super proud of it. And as you two know, I've really always enjoyed cars. So
Freddie's a huge car guy.
Freddie talks to me about cars all the time, and I just nod along. Like,
You
I know
really
what
wanted
I'm
a
talking about.
Phantom, so you got the 300?
that's right, yeah. I thought about putting the suicide doors on the 300, but
For real, though, you did. I mean, like, you did think about it, though, right? Like, you actually did think about it, right?
I would go Lambo doors first. And around St. Charles, there's more respect with the Lambo doors than
There are
You got to get the light kit underneath.
over
too.
under
umbrella in the door.
in St. Charles, Missouri. There were several Chevy Cavaliers with Lambo doors.
Yes. Cadillac Escalades.
Which is just funny,
Kyle
Dude.
talks about Derby being tough. Like, you don't know about the truck,
No, it's the
man.
murder cap.
but
it's Derby is.
But it's not.
There was
St.
a
Louis
murder there
is.
a couple years ago. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
The person actually just might have died of old age. I'm
The
not
murder
sure.
cap.
It was a
something like that.
slip and fall
Yeah.
accident.
So he's driving a ballin' Chrysler 300, 125K in his pocket. He walked in. You paid straight cash, homie, for that car.
Sir, I would like to pay
Yeah, I tried
cash.
to. I tried to, and they pulled me up in the system. And they're like, "Man, you don't exist based on your social security number." And I was like, "What do you mean I don't exist?" They're like,
Sir, you have
any,
no credit.
You don't have any credit.
Yeah, you don't
and
have
I was
credit
like, what
yet.
does that matter? I got cash right here, dude.
Yeah.
I don't need, and they're like, you should finance. Obviously on the back end, the dealer's like, you should finance. That's how we
make money.
That's right. And I was like, my dad's like, well, not a bad idea to build some credit. And I was like, sure. I paid 3 payments on it. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm paying $55 a month in interest. And I went to Bank of America the next day and just paid it off.
Yeah.
I'm done paying that. So
Nicely done.
What else did you buy?
Man, I didn't waste my money. I didn't know what to do with it, but I didn't waste it. I bought an assault rifle that I still have, bunch of ammunition and just like silly stuff.
Certainly not a waste.
That's not silly.
No, that wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I should have bought 5 more of them.
Yeah.
But
Especially back then. I mean, dude.
the most fun was I bought that car, and then naturally, right, I was still technically a junior in college. So what did I do in the wintertime when I got back? I went back to Jeffco with all my boys, and I was just like,
gosh.
dude, Hillsborough,
Let's just
Missouri,
party.
if you got a couple thousand in your checking account, it's like,
You could make it rain for $200.
dude, you can make it rain for $75 at a Taco Bell with your boys, and you're just like, it's whatever. Like life is so simple.
You're like cheesy gordita crunch,
Dude,
Crunchwrap
all around,
Supreme.
and they're like, Freddy,
Get the expensivest thing on the menu.
We went to Walmart, my best friend Brett, and I was like, buy whatever you want.
It's on me.
I filled the fridge up, and I was there, dude. I was there every weekend, but I was hitting and training and all about it. Like I said, I love those guys. So
That's awesome, man.
That's incredible. So now we can get to the bittersweet where you climb the ranks.
yeah.
You eventually get to AA.
Yeah, I finished my last spring training in AA, but I played mainly in high A ball, high A ball, which for a lot of people that don't understand the minor leagues, everybody's like, were you in AAA? It's like, well, major league organizations will have 5 to 7 minor league teams. So you have short season, rookie ball, low A, high A, AA, AAA. So an organization will have about 200 players in the organization, and that makes up all your minor leagues. And so I had 5 guys I was competing against for a major league job, but those 5 guys were the best, some of the best in the world. I'd gone from being a high school kid where you're competing against millions of other high school kids for a college spot. Then when you're in junior college, you're competing with thousands of other kids for a Division I spot, and you're competing with thousands of other kids to get drafted. So I made it all the way to the top of this pyramid, it felt like at a time. And I had about 5 guys that I was competing with. And I didn't have to compete with guys from other organizations. The Royals were entirely homegrown. Like, they took a lot of pride in that. So I literally was looking at, Whit Merrifield, Bubba Starling, Alex Gordon, Paulo Orlando, like these guys, freaking Jorge Soler, right? I was looking at these guys and I'm like, well, this is my competition. I gotta be better than these guys. And the reason some of those names I mentioned is because they're that good.
Yeah.
They've been in the bigs for a while. And, Whit's been an all-star a couple times. And Alex Gordon, however many gold gloves he's won. And so it really comes down to teaching you a lesson about how consistent you have to be. And that's really what I learned the day I got released, Kyle, what you were saying. So it was my last spring training. Oddly enough, it was the best I ever played in spring training. And it was March 28th, 2015. My last week of my last spring training. And JJ Piccolo called me in his office and he was like, Freddie, which I knew what was happening at the time, and by that time I was so mentally smoked. I mean,
frustrated.
I was frustrated. I was, it's all I'd ever wanted, since I was 15 or 13, you work so hard for this thing and that day's coming where, I just didn't develop consistently. And then also my window of opportunity is just always closing. From the day you sign that dotted line, that window starts to close, no matter who you are. And so if you don't make the most of that opportunity, the window closes. And there's a draft with 40 rounds the next year, and there's other guys. And that's just the business of baseball and sports in general. So JJ called me in his office and he's like, hey, Freddie, he's like, listen, man. He's like, the room is split. We cover our guys all the time. They're like, you are a guy who shows up early, you stay late, you never miss your workout, you're never not on time, you're respectful, you're professional, you put forth a ton of effort, a lot of focus. We know how bad you want this, but the reality is the results just aren't consistently there. And it was just the truth, you know what I mean? It was just the truth. And, your whole life, if you played sports or you've done academics or whatever you've done, primarily, I think, just in grades, even in college today, man, if you show up, put forth some effort, you're going to pass. You're going to get a degree. That's what it is. Unless you're an engineer or you're getting a law degree or you're getting something that they really put you to the test, you can come in and just be a good student, clock in, and you're good. And you can show up to your high school practice and put forth a bunch of effort and typically be one of the best players on your team if you just care enough, right? Same thing in college. And to get to the pro level, obviously you got to execute, right? But you grow your skill at a time, and it all translates, right? And then you get to the professional rank where, you got guys that are just total studs. They're just stuck because the guy above them is just performing.
It's all
You're
about,
just like, that guy's different.
This is where like most of the talent works hard.
Yes.
And so
that no longer
it's
matters.
Supreme talent, and they all work hard. And if they don't work hard, the talent still can win.
That's right. And that was tough for me to accept because I got there early, I stayed late, I ate clean, I trained hard, I did all these things, and then there would be guys that were just sloppier, lazier, not as disciplined. But man, they could step in there and they just raked. They could hit, dude. They could get it done. Straight up, they could get it done more consistently.
You're in a results-based industry.
Yeah, and hitting in baseball, it's such a mental game. You know what I'm saying? It's as much mental as it is physical, and it feels like if you get into that hole where it's like you can't, you feel like you can't dig out of it. I bet that was just miserable to go through.
Yeah, and what's kind of sickening now is I'll sit back and I went through a period where I just didn't watch baseball. I didn't care. I was burnt out. I didn't have a bad taste in my mouth, so to speak. I was just like, no, enough. It's 24 years of my life. I'm like, time to do something different. But now I sit back and watch a baseball game, and I'll watch a pitcher, throw a pitch, and I'll be like, well, he's going to do this, throw this pitch here, and then this pitch here. And I'm like, if he hangs it right here, he's going to go whack. Yep. I'm like, you just watch the game so detached now, and I'm like, man, if I could have just thought like that in the middle of the game, and in reality, I could have. The best players do that,
Do you think your age had something to do with that? Where you were at as far as like being mature?
I feel like you're so coachable, Freddie, that like if I'm now knowing you, it's like you took so much pride in being a good coachable athlete that you were just like, I'm just trying to do this process so well, and you're so in your own head about it. And it's like the Freddie I know now could like take himself out of the situation and actually like, I don't know, evaluate things a little differently and like go with your gut more so than like going with the process.
Man, I was too coachable. I was coachable so much that it was the beginning of my downfall. And
you never tried one thing all the way. It'd always be switching up an approach all the time. Or
I could see when you were younger, basically caring so much that it actually was starting to be negative for you.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So instead of like relaxing and just kind of like clearing your head, you were thinking about like, basically going through a million different things as far as what you need to focus on, what you need to do.
Overthinking.
And it was you were overthinking.
Yeah. And in reality, I couldn't step back and be like, listen, I got God-given ability, like I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm focused, I got all these tools. And I had a coach tell me one time, and I'll never forget him telling me this. He was like, he pointed to the net that is on the front of the dugout, right? It's like, it's just a net. And he's like, you see that bag stuck in that net right there is blowing on the field? So yeah, he's like, that's what you have to do with information, and he's like, you're going to have all these people that are giving you information that either want a piece of your success later on, if you make it, or they want to just hear themselves talk. Right. And if you try and catch all that information, it's just going to get clogged. He's like, you got to let a lot of that blow through and catch little pieces here and there. And that really stuck with me. And unfortunately, that was on the back end of things. And I was like, oh, so immediately I was like,
there's some people I shouldn't be listening to.
There's some people I shouldn't be listening to that you're taught your whole life. These guys are professional coaches. This guy's played in the bigs for 10 years. Like, listen to this dude. This dude's a switch hitting second baseman.
Yeah.
I loved him to death. My hitting coach, and to his credit, he did everything he could for me. We just didn't learn the same way.
Yeah.
We weren't playing the same game. And so he could give me a lot of benefits, but I was listening to some things that and immediately that winter before my last spring training, I went back to Jeffco and I got a hold of my coach and I was like, we're working, that guy knew me and knew my baseball better than anybody because he molded it. I went back to him and I said, I'm doing this my way. I'm doing this my way. I'm not listening to the people. I'm respectful, but I'm doing this. I'm going to go out on my terms if I'm going out. Mm-hmm. And that last spring training was my best spring training, but yeah, Jeff, to a fault. It was like, I just wrapped up in so many other things besides just get the freaking results, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember Colby Rasmus?
Oh yeah.
What the hell is he doing now?
I don't know. Listening to his dad still.
That's one of the craziest, one of the best stories. This dude is 18-year-old phenom from like Alabama,
Georgia.
Yeah. And he was just a good old boy, if you will. And when he got drafted, he's 18, and he was like our star guy for the Cardinals for years. And he got up to the bigs and like raked as a really young dude, and was every bit of like the prospect we thought he would be. But he kept having falling outs with the team because he wanted to listen to his dad over Mark McGuire, I think, as far as a hitting coach.
Yeah.
And he's like, my dad knows me, blah, 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 blah. We're like, all right, well, now you've been traded.
Yeah. They traded him to Houston, and he had some good years there, but, and he had a respectable major league career. He probably played 8 years.
Probably got his 10 or whatever. Like he got the whatever. But yeah, he was.
Well, how about
Tony Rasmus was his dad's name. That's how famous his dad was. Everybody knew him in the media because if you were a Cardinals fan, you're like, this freaking guy.
How about this? So I played with a kid from Stanford. His name is Kenny DeKroger. He's a buddy of mine. He lives in San Francisco. He played with a guy named Mark Appel. And Mark Appel was, as a junior, so a Division I school, you can be drafted as a junior. He was the 8th pick in the draft. 5th or 8th pick in the draft. And I believe he got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates. 8th overall, millions. And he didn't agree with their long toss program or their pitching programming to some extent. What? And he said, I'm going to do my own programming for my arm. And they said, no, you're going to do it our way. And he said, that's cool. I just won't sign. And he went back as a senior, which is your leverage is gone. Got drafted 3rd overall.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he went back and was just like, cool, sounds good, I'm Mark Appel. But he took that risk, blow out his arm, have a terrible year, lose his confidence, whatever, blow out a knee, get in a car wreck, anything can happen.
And he just didn't like their long toss protocol.
And he didn't like their protocol, and he was just like, no. And I think he actually went 1st overall in like 2013. He was just like, I'm going back.
What a gangster.
Yeah. Well, he's going to Stanford, and he's
like, I actually don't even need this.
Yeah. Yeah, Kenny, that's another funny guy too. So he got drafted in 2009.
Who's Kenny?
Kenny DeKroger. He was an old teammate of mine.
Sure.
He actually got drafted in 2011, 3rd round out of high school, and was offered like $500,000. And he said, no, I'm going to go to Stanford. And then he got drafted 3rd round out of Stanford and got $200,000. Nice. So he lost like a lot of money, but his parents are millionaires. Like he didn't need money.
Didn't matter.
Cool. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, man,
So, anyways, back to what my depressing question, as Jeff put it.
Yeah.
It was depressing, dude.
Yeah, got released, man.
You got drafted, then you got released.
I know the answer to this because me and Freddie have talked about this before, and I appreciate his perspective on going through this because not a lot of people have had to deal with something that's that dramatic. Imagine working for something for that period of time, getting to a point where you actually get it, and then having to, get cut from that situation.
I mean, no one's getting drafted thinking I'm not going to make it.
Right.
Right.
Well, the majority of people that are drafted, like, dude, the skill is there. You are not getting drafted to play professional baseball if there is not the skill and ability to play in the major leagues. You're probably not. And so nobody's thinking that. So, boom. I mean, call it what it is. I got fired. It was the first time I've been fired from anything in my life. Never got cut from anything, never failed anything. Got fired, let go. And they said, hey man, safe travels back to St. Louis.
And you never thought, and I know we've discussed this, but for those listening, obviously, I mean, just total, I mean, I would just call it, heartbreaking, but also just makes you, identify differently because you've been a ball player your whole life to this point.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know who I am identity wise without being a ball player.
Yeah. That's a whole nother bag of worms,
Yeah.
If you really get into, and I struggle with this a little bit because I think all young dudes do, but your performance doesn't define you as a person, and I think you struggle when you're 18 and you're freaking win a state championship. You're like, I'm the man and you can't tell me otherwise, and then when you're in the minors and you hit 240, 12 home runs in a 150 game season, when you're used to just tearing apart junior college baseball, you're just kind of like, am I as good as I think? It's one thing to take it humbly, and it's another thing to look in the mirror and be like, dude, you're not any good.
Yeah.
And so that plays into it a little bit.
Yeah, rocks a little bit of self-belief.
For sure. Yeah.
What happened in the sense of, you obviously were a great prospect. You did not have a terrible spring. You had your best spring you ever had. And you felt like you were, getting into this groove after, going back home to Jeffco and working with your old coach. It's like, there was definitely some more tread on these tires. What made
Yeah.
you say, you know what, I'm gonna go back to school and I'm gonna pursue a degree versus at least trying to kick the tires somewhere else?
Yeah. A lot of people ask me that early on. They're like, I was never injured. I was never out of the lineup for any kind of reason other than I was totally healthy my whole career. I left baseball completely healthy, and
Knock on wood, yeah.
yeah, for sure, which is not the case for a lot of guys. And my body didn't tell me to quit. It was just a choice, and I had a feeling. First off, I drove back from Phoenix that day, and I drove 22 hours straight, which is not recommended. But I was just like, of course, your mind's just going nuts, right? And I got released the last week of spring training. So teams are breaking. The major league clubs are already leaving. Teams are breaking. All 32 teams, absolutely none of them are looking to sign players. They just released all the players too, from their spring training. And so those guys filter into different independent leagues around the country that are not affiliated. And there's better leagues and weak leagues. And so I did actually sign. I had some offers. So I had an agent at the time, and he shopped me for a couple of different leagues, and I had one in Texas and one on the East Coast. And I had the River City Rascal.
Oh yeah,
River City,
St. Charles.
yeah, the independent league, which is notably a very good league for hitters, right? So you can go and you can do a lot of damage.
They do wood bats there too, though, right?
Yeah,
Independent league's wood bat.
yep. And so it's a lot of guys that were looking to get drafted out of college and didn't, so they signed independent. And I went to the independent league, and of course I was feeling good, right? And I started like mashing in the beginning of that. And I won't say his name, but the head coach of that team was a high school teacher of mine. And I turned down more money and more opportunity at other places around the country to go play independent, kind of climb my way back. And I said, hey, I want to play here in St. Charles. My family wants to see me play every night, and I think I can do really well in this league and set me up for either another trampoline league or to be signed by a professional team or by a MLB team somewhere throughout the year. And he said, cool, Freddie, I'm on board with that. I'd love it. And 2 weeks into the season, he brought me in his office and released me because he signed another pitcher from California. That was one of his boys.
Wow. What the hell?
Wow.
It was
Devastating.
I've never, I'm not a super confrontational guy. I was like, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you right here in this office, and I'm going to beat the shit out of you, And I told him how I felt about that, and I've never said a word to him to this day, and I don't really care to. And it was after a long road trip, so I drove to my dad's work. He was working nights at the shop that he was at. And I just walked into his office, and I looked at him. He's like, what's up, bud? And I was like, I'm done. I'm not dealing with that anymore. Like, I'm done doing that. And he looked me in the eyes, and he's like, are you sure? Are you sure about what you're telling me? Because when you're done, you're done. And I said, I'm done dealing with that. And, just the business of what it is. And hung him up.
The politics of that, man. And it was really just because it was just someone that he, was closer to him, et cetera.
Didn't even play the same position.
This guy's watched me since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And he just did that. And I was like, dude, we joke about erode and trust, but I'm like, man, that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, you're tarnished to me.
Yeah.
Your word is just useless to me now.
You went out of your way to
I wasn't
play
entitled, right? Like I wasn't like, oh, this is my boy. I need a spot on the team. But I was plenty good enough to be on that team, and I was playing well. And it was like, dude. So,
and I think more than even that, it's like you specifically went to that team outside of better offers.
That's right. And I turned down, there's a league on the East Coast called the Atlantic League, and it's all major league guys that are released that are still trying to make it back into a team, into AAA, and then getting another sniff at the league. And I would have gone there and been like an every third day player outfielder. But I would have learned. I was going to be with guys that had a bunch of experience. And I was like, man, that would be really good.
You'd be around some really famous players.
It was up in Jersey, and I was like, dude, I'd play with guys that I watched on TV as a kid, and I didn't do it. I was just like, yeah, I've been to the East Coast. It's fine. It's whatever. I'm gonna do this here, and it didn't turn out.
So now you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to Mizzou, right?
Yep.
You finish off school. How many years were you there?
2 years. So
2 full semesters or 4 semesters?
4 semesters, 2 years. Paid for by the Royals, by the way. So when you get drafted, I told him, I said, give me the signing bonus, but you can also pay for the rest of my school. I had 2 years of school left, so I want you to pay for that. And they said, cool, no problem. So I used the academic money to go back to Mizzou.
That's awesome. The Royals held true to that too, which I'm sure they're contractually obligated, but it's still cool.
Yeah, and they support it too. It was a pretty darn easy process to get all that taken care of. They're great.
That's awesome. So you also meet your lovely wife at Mizzou.
I did.
Tell us how that went down. Reagan Ford, by the way, the most presidential name you've ever heard. Her name is now Reagan Ford.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So I met Reg, and that was the best thing. I mean, that's just, people ask me, like, oh, do you wish you continued playing and keep going? I was like, no, I'm not changing anything. I met Reg. I got to live with my best friend Brett for another 2 years. He was coaching at Mizzou. I was finishing a degree. I was that dude who was 24 in a public speaking course, and I was like, these are children,
Yeah,
and,
for sure. And they were.
as we all were when we were 18. And so as a last semester at Mizzou, I met Reagan, and I met her November 11th of 2016, I guess it was, and we got married November 18th, 2017.
Yeah, you knew.
I knew.
Yeah,
I knew. And so I met Reagan as just a mutual friend. I was working for the strength and conditioning staff at Mizzou, and Reagan played volleyball at Mizzou for 4 years, and
she was a stud too, wasn't she?
She's a better athlete than you.
She's a good player. She's tougher than me.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure.
That is true.
She's freaking tough cookie. So pumped. When I met her, it just like I've told this story I think to you, Jeff, and a few times, and any of our new hires, right? The things that attracted me about Reagan early on, because I mean, like, dude, we dated for 8. We got engaged after 8 months. That's like, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For everyone listening, that's dangerous.
Yeah. It's like risky. You don't even know anybody after 8 months.
I bet sweater's longer than 8 months.
Yeah.
No doubt. So, but I watched some of her habits from afar, and I watched her do things without any of my influence that she just decided to do on her own. And I was like, that is attractive. Like I know how that plays out as a potential mom long-term and a wife and this and that. So I didn't waste any time. I texted her sister. I said, what kind of ring does she want? And she sent me back a picture, and I went to Zales the next day. I was like, you got this ring? She said, yep. Boom, bought it. So
damn. All that Royals money still rolling around.
I had some saved away. Yeah, I didn't spend it all, of course. But I asked Reg to marry me in June. Then we moved to Kansas City in August of 17.
What brought you guys to Kansas City?
Reagan.
Yeah.
So she took a job here the day before we met.
Breadwinner, just like him.
She was, man. She was. And so I was like, well, I don't have anything going on. I got a degree in exercise science, and I was going to be a police officer, and that didn't work out. So I got a job at Enterprise and here in Kansas City. So I did that for a while, and we got off of the highway to look at our first apartment in Kansas City. This is probably July 2017. Got off at 69 Highway and 135th and went left, and there it was. Supplement Superstores' first Kansas City location.
We've been open 6 months.
Yeah. And I remember driving by and seeing the area around 135th and being like, there's a lot around here. This is cool. They were building Maggiano's at the time, which I've still never eaten there. But
heard great things,
it's pretty good, man.
I've
I've gone there
either.
twice with my dad. My dad likes Italian food.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is kind of a cool place. So we signed a lease at the Deer Creek apartment. It's 1 mile from S2. And so naturally I walk in, and I think both you guys are working at the time. Of course you were, because it was still within the first year of you being open. And I was like, what up? I'm like, I'm from St. Charles. I know about this. Like, how's this working out? And you guys are both looking at me like,
thank God we got a fucking
we
guy
got
that
somebody that knows
understands
who we are. Yeah. So
nice to see a familiar face every once in a while. But we're like, oh, we're actually already Supplement Superstores fans. We're like, thank God.
Yeah.
I've been selling my soul the last 17 transactions.
We're cool. Guys, we're cool.
I think I bought a bang, and I was like, I'm just here to just
yeah. Nah, dude. I remember that, man.
I walked in to ask for a job. You remember that?
Yeah.
You were working with Blake.
Because you were so Freddie walks in, he asks for a job, and he's like, yeah, it would be for like 3 months. And I'm like, or it might even been less than that.
I was waiting for the police academy to start.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need a job. It's like 6 months. And keep in mind, anybody listening, Kyle and Jeff had been working open to close for 8 straight months, taking every single transaction in our stores. And here's a 25-year-old dude coming in, like, I love your store, everything you're about. I want to grow with the company. I need a job. And Kyle looks at me and he goes, I don't think it's going to work.
I'm like, that's not what I need.
You didn't say I want to grow with the company. You said I'm going to join the police academy.
No,
in 3
that's what
months.
I'm saying.
Yeah. But I was like, I know the trajectory of this. Like, I know what you guys are going to end up doing.
Yeah.
He was just like, yeah, man, but I'm starting the police academy. And I was just like, dude,
Just destroyed our souls.
don't do that. Just come work for us, man.
You're like, I want to serve my community. And I was like, serve him here.
Yeah. So naturally, I shopped at the store probably 3 times a week for 4 months, and then at Enterprise.
Hey, fun story. You were already married to Reagan when you guys moved to Kansas City, correct? Or that didn't happen for a few months?
No, we got married in November, and
I still remember when you guys did.
But I'm saying all of your groomsmen got S2 gift cards. This is before you worked for us. I mean,
I came in and got
that's a baller move. That's it's a dedicated fan.
It was my brothers and my best friends, and dude, we all shopped at S2, and I was like, dude, they would like this. So got them all S2 gift cards, and I remember because the guy working the time was new. He didn't know how to do gift cards, and Kyle, I think you guys are trying to figure it out in Lightspeed, and I was like, man, they're new here in KC, like operations aren't necessarily nailed down yet. And so Reagan and I got married in November. I had been working for Enterprise at that point for a couple of months, and you guys had just about opened Shawnee, and Kyle shot me a message on Instagram, and he was like, hey, man, you obviously know what we're about, our values, how we're trying to do things, and if you know of anybody that's going to be a good fit within our company, please send them our way. We're looking to hire some really good people. And I still got the message saved on my phone, and I called Reagan leaving Enterprise that night after reading the message. Said, hey, I'm going to go to S2 real quick. She's like, what do you need? I sent her that screenshot. She goes, oh, okay. And so I walked in and showed Kyle the Instagram message, and I was like, what's this look like? Because I was working at Enterprise, which is a great company here in Kansas City, great company globally. I mean, they're awesome. Mm-hmm. Family owned.
Very well known to help out young people as far as getting them into management. And
they teach you some really good things. And I was only with them for about 4 months, and I was like trying to make myself fit in that company somewhere long term. I was thinking like, man, what am I going to be doing here in this company? I don't want to rent cars. I don't want to run a branch. I'm just like, what can I do?
And you start off as like a branch manager in training, right?
Yeah. You're working 55 hours a week in a suit, washing cars, renting smoked out rental cars.
But they paid you well.
They did, yeah. I mean, like you work really hard, but nobody's complaining about their base pay,
right.
And it was a very good job. I told people I was working at Enterprise. My father-in-law, who I'd known for less than a year, he's like, "Oh, very good company."
I think when you pass, I mean, this
Enterprise has got like the check off of like when you're talking to somebody, like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that'll do."
Exactly,
that'll
do.
It's
when when you move to somewhere and you're getting married, and everybody's asking you those questions: How are you going to support your family? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? And post college, of course, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it's everybody wants to know so they can hear out what you're doing and then critique it, right? And like compare themselves, right? And so it's just like, I went the Supplement Superstore route too, right? Mm-hmm. And I did this at 21.
Yeah.
And it was well before we were established. And I also had a job offer from the Cardinals.
Right.
So to be like, you're not going to work, you're not going to work for the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals, which at the time was Springfield Cardinals, right? Like I'm in AA affiliate, Springfield, Missouri, but that was like my ticket to want to work for St. Louis.
Sure.
I totally could. It would be an easy transfer, right? And I was like selling tickets, and they're like, but you're going to work at Supplement Superstore instead. You're going to choose that as the career. Mm-hmm. And I made and I made $12 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, sorry, not
manager pay.
Bogart.
There's some serious wage inflation that's happened since.
That was my manager pay.
Holy shit, that's gone way up.
It's wild. But bottom line, you talk to Kyle. We're at the store. What's that look like?
I think the something to get across here to everybody that's listening too is, if you are looking to staff the best people on your team, they're not going to walk in your door and be like, I want a job. Typically, you're going to have to go out and find them. Mm. And a lot of times you're just going to be talking to them in a conversation and be like, you know what, I like this guy. And then you can kind of figure out who they are as far as values over the next, couple times of seeing him. And then you need to go recruit them. And that's basically what I was doing to you. Basically, that text message was me fishing and seeing how much.
Now I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you did. You just need to water that seed because
made it your idea.
Yeah, sure. I don't care. Yeah. Now it's our idea.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you just need to water that seed because the majority of people, they're out there working some job, they're making really good money, and in the back of their mind, they're always chewing over like, what would if I could have done this, or what done that, I think I would like doing that. They're never really enjoying what they're doing.
You got to really ask yourself, am I doing this because I was told I was supposed to?
Yeah.
Or am I doing this because it's what I really want to do?
Right.
Right.
And that's so few and far between. So
it's really hard too, because you feel there's a spot deep within inside you that you're like always worried about. I need to get a good job, and then when you get a good job, you're like, this is not what I freaking thought it was going to be, dude.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when.
Yeah. I'll be happy when.
Yeah. I mean, man, that's a podcast of itself. But
yeah.
You took Reg and I to dinner, and we sat down, and I was like, hey, man, what does this really look like long term? What's my potential long term? And I think I'll never forget asking you guys, like, at this time, St. Louis had 14 locations. They're established. And I asked you, I said, who's coming from St. Louis to come help you grow this market? And you said, nobody.
It's me and Kyle.
It's you and Kyle.
I was like, dude, do you see me every time I go in the store?
And I did, yeah. Of course, I had
I was like, if we could have St. Louis guys here, I'd have had them here by now.
Yeah, what you were saying is like, how is Andy helping you guys?
Yes.
And we're like, it's really just us at this point.
And I heard those words, and I said, I am for sure in. You got 4 people right now. Like, sign me up. And so $9.50 an hour. And left.
I remember specifically having a side talk with Kyle and being like,
don't even bring this up, but yeah, it's kind of embarrassing to think about now.
It's crazy, but it was like, we need to pay him a little more to let him know like that we're serious about wanting to grow him with us, and at the time we were paying roughly $7-8 minimum, and then like if you do a good job helping people, you get around 10 or so. But we were gonna start them off.
That's not exactly right.
It's like base $10.
That was like the base. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying like, but we wanted to give you a base of $10 an hour, but you got $9.50. I thought we were negotiated.
It might have been
10.
Yeah.
I thought we gave you 10. It was like a big deal to me and Kyle. Like, we're gonna have to take less.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't taking anything anyways.
Yeah.
Well,
our genuine paychecks, I believe I was getting like $900 every 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
It equated to $33K a year.
Well, not even at that time. We dropped it down because we were opening Shawnee. We ran our bank account to like 0 to open up Shawnee. I know Jeff doesn't look at that stuff, but like we really ran it to about 0.
I lived in
and then we're like, should we bring Freddie on? Can we afford Freddie at $10 an hour?
And we were dead serious. Like, we were like, dude, I mean, like, we're going to have to not pay ourselves a little longer so we can pay Freddie $10. And like, it sounds like we were like, being POSs for giving you $10 an hour at the time, but this was 4 freaking years ago.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Our stores were
I also didn't
as busy.
The thing that too, when you open up a business, you can't speed up the process of understanding cash flow. So like I was still learning cash flow. I was learning how our business ebbed and flowed through different seasons. I was learning like what to expect as far as payroll dollars go. We were building out our second store. I don't even really, we built out the first store and I kind of know how much everything costs, but like, I was trying to nail down like,
I hope the fridge doesn't break.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, there was so many things that I was learning at the time too. And I was always looking at our account and I was always worried, like, I mean, Jeff, I'm still like this.
Right.
I'm still telling Jeff, like, no, dude, we don't have enough money to do that because you got to understand, you got to think about this. And Jeff's like, shut up.
It's true. Yeah. I'm like, we have a credit card.
But anyways, that kind of explains like the mentality that we were in at that point. We knew we had to have a person like you. And when you came to the table and you said, I'm going to do this, what'd you tell me? What'd you say like your goals were when you first got on?
Yeah, I just said I'm going to be, less or more. I'm going to be the guy.
You said I'm going to be the fastest guy to get into management.
You're going to get into management,
and I'm going to eventually become a DM.
Yeah. I have my day one notebooks. I save all my notebooks. And day one, training with Jeff at Shawnee, the top of the notebook says District Manager S2KC.
I remember telling you like, we'll see. And then in the back of my head, I was like, please, God.
Yeah. you better do it. Jesus. God damn.
Please.
Yeah. We were having the toughest time in the beginning as far as
just creating culture's hard, man.
Creating culture from and dude, shout out to so many of our staff that helped us create that culture. And some aren't with us now and some of us are. And some still are, but
pour one out for the homies.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we had so many people help us get that culture going because everybody expects the owners to care a ton, and culture starts with people that aren't the owners being that invested. For sure. And so when other people recognize employees investing, that's when you know a company's got good culture. And so people really didn't know what being super invested looked like until you really poured it on. You know what I'm saying? You set that pace for everybody else.
Yeah, you were also the first person that we hired that like actually took life seriously. You know, you expected a lot of yourself. Yeah. And I mean, that's half the battle of success is expecting success out of yourself. You know, at that point in time, we were hiring, and they're great people and they're great with customers and honestly, you know, really good as far as like being knowledgeable as far as fitness and nutrition. But
the straight up growing up still.
Yeah, but they're still growing up and they still don't have the expectation of like you were saying, you know, I want to be a district manager and I'm going to be a district manager.
Yeah, there was two variables at play there. One, I had been married for 2 months. And I just vowed before my friends and family, like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to support Reagan and I'm going to be, you know, who I need to be for our marriage. And 2.5 years ago, I was 4 people away from playing in the major leagues every day. And, you know, they're making $600,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was like, man, I understand how serious you got to take things to get where you want to go. I still, even knowing that, didn't know anything, you know. But I also, when I was hired on, I just had a lot more to lose, you know. And it's like, man, if this doesn't work out, and there wasn't ever any doubt, you know, I wasn't hedging my bets, but I was like, this has to work.
Yeah.
But I believed that it was going to work so much that that has literally never wavered since day one.
Yeah, you were one of the first people that we hired that had a family, that you were married to Reagan. Mm-hmm. Obviously, during that time, I was about to have my first kid.
The first person.
Yeah. And I remember feeling like, as an owner, a weight when we hired you, a responsibility that I personally hadn't felt yet. You know, a 22-year-old kid saying, hey, I'm going to go all in with you and we'll do this is a little bit different than how you came to us and sitting down with Reagan. I remember specifically feeling like, okay, well, it's more important to me now that everything goes correctly and that we're executing on a regular basis, because if we're not, it's not just me and Jeff we're letting down and, you know, my family, it's also Freddie's family as well.
Yeah. I will say this, you know, again, you know, we joke about Reagan being tougher than me, but like, shout out to Reg, because if you're somebody who, let alone is in a new marriage, but you're married to somebody and you're going to take, just call it what it is, a risk, you know. I thought it was a sure risk and whatever, you know. But if you don't have the support to do that, and you have somebody that's going to be in a tug of war with you and you're focusing your time on the back end of things when you go home, it's going to be miserable, you know.
Yeah.
And Reagan, man, she was so consistent in her support of what we were going to do. And she's just been, dude, you know, I engaged her after 8 months. We married in a year, been married to her now for 4 years. And being married to her is like, I knew it was going to be really good. She is just a freaking stud, man. I love her so much. And there's no way I'm able to stick out and just push through and develop the way I need to if she's not as supportive as she's been.
It's the most important decision you'll make in your life.
It really is.
You cannot go home to somebody. You cannot work all day and then go home to somebody who's
somebody's drilling holes in the boat, and you're
Correct.
like, oh no, like you feel trapped. And I never felt that way. And naturally, you know, long days, early mornings, whatever it is, like that's just what it takes. You know, she could have been my wife as a pro athlete. Well, guess what? I'm gone 9 months out of the year anyway.
Yeah,
I'm on the road. I'm getting home late, you know, leaving early, whatever. And if you work a regular 9 to 5, you still can't go home to that. You know,
Dude,
it's just
the problem with that is a lot of people, when they get into a relationship, they don't sit down and say, hey, we're going to have a talk about what we want and what we're willing to give up to get to that point. Yep. And every time that we get to a point where we're stressed out, we're going to pull out that piece of paper and we're going to talk about what we want and what we give up to get there, you know, because a lot of people, they just don't have that communication.
She's, and ever since the word, she's wonderful. You know, she's basically employee number. If I was employee number 5, she's number 6. You know what I mean? Like she was at the group workouts and all that.
That's
like
true.
she's
oh yeah, she's been supportive.
She's
and dude, that's, you know, that was our first time we ever hired somebody where we thought in ourselves, like, it's super important that we fulfill what we say we're going to do because we have people really counting on us, and they're not just looking at this as a job. You know what I mean? And you are our first person to truly make us feel that way. Like this has to work out in a big way.
So glad we did, man.
Amen. So,
you started working for us. Mm-hmm. You did what you said you were going to do. You became our fastest manager we've ever promoted.
4 months.
You became our DM.
3 months.
At one point, we had you running.
That's true. It was 3 months,
you've ran 2 different stores multiple times for us.
Yeah.
You've oversaw the growth of the company from a 2-store to a 7-store company.
You've backflipped on our manager camp out.
Backflipped on a manager
some good
camp.
float trips in there.
Good float trips. And honestly, man, you've grown into like such a great leader, and I'm really proud of you, man. You've done a lot for our company. You've done a lot to develop people that are underneath you, and I think you've made people underneath you better, which is like, as well as I do, it's the most gratifying thing about being a leader is when you can actually see the people that are underneath you, the things that you're teaching them actually improve their life. And I think that there's a lot of, I don't want to call, I guess you could call them your little disciples, that work underneath you that have picked up a lot of the same characteristics that you have. I'd say the discipline that you have, and also the high expectations of yourself. That's flowed down throughout our company. And I think that, it can't be understated how much of an influence you've had. And like, what we're talking about as far as it being hard to build culture, our culture got a lot easier to build once you came into it.
Bought in.
Yeah, bought into it. Because now it's not just, me and Jeff trying to rally the troops.
Right.
It's like, well, there's also that guy. That guy cares a lot too.
Yeah, it's almost like an unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
And I told myself when I was at Mizzou, I was studying exercise science, and I did a couple things and I did internships, and I found out, more importantly, what I didn't want to do. And about that time, I realized, like, I feel this obligation to do well at whatever I'm doing. And I wanted to be in a leadership position because I wanted to be in a position to lead leaders. That was my goal, and I really looked at like sports teams and what makes good teams good, and why are teams like the 2000s Patriots so dominant, and why are the Yankees so dominant through the 90s and all that. And I started to think about, like, man, what makes it a team really good? And I found out it's the leadership, and I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to win something. I want to compete in something, and I want to help groom people to be that good around me. And I love it. I love telling customers, like, this is what I'm doing, like, this is all I'm doing. Yeah. And I love I get asked that in interviews all the time. They're like, why do you work here with the company? And I'm like, oh, how much time do you got, dude? Like, it's just, you get that opportunity, and it's pretty rare, and you guys give me the autonomy to do what I think is best. And
I think too, coming from a sports background, it's really easy to find a home in our company because it almost is like a bridge from sports.
Yeah, dude,
it's a very much a locker room type of job. And like I said, I think a lot of it is just the cohesion you have with the people that you work with.
Yep, I'm loyal to our dudes, man.
Dude, it's people working towards a common goal and actually expecting a lot of each other from it and holding each other accountable. And, not to, piggyback off what Kyle's saying, but I think this is a good time to tell you something that I don't think you've ever been told by me, at least. And that is, it's been over the course of probably the last 6 months to a year. But when I see people, out and about that I know, and they pull me aside and tell me how great, S2 is doing, or how great their experience is or whatever. These people, almost every single time now, they mention your name in the same breath as me and Kyle, in the sense of how much ownership you take. And it doesn't surprise me, obviously, in the slightest, but I love knowing that these people that, don't know you on a personal level huge, think that you also own the company too. And that's exactly what I know that you would hope that, people would think that. And it's just every single time now people are like, yeah, man, with you and Kyle, Freddie, I mean, like, dude, you guys are just killing it. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's all Freddie now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, me and Kyle, I mean, if you guys are listening, like, we've never worked harder on trying to grow this company to another level, to level up, if you will. And we've never spent more time on that. And it's been, honest to God, nerve-wracking to do that, not looking at your own stores day to day, every day, really focused on it, Instead, we've got Freddie, who we trust. We got managers who we trust. And dude, I'm just saying, you do a phenomenal job, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, man. No, I'm appreciative right back. I'm super happy to do it. And, man, it's been, 4.5 years, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, man.
Well, I agree, and we got some rapid fire questions to round this out.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
We're gonna do some fun rapid fire. Get to know Freddy's.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask him. So before you do that, one last thing that I feel like people should know, and that is something that we got to talk about, is that your triathlon career. Let's talk about what you are training for right now.
Yeah, Ironman Des Moines.
Yeah,
June 12th, and that's only because
you get mad when I say triathlon, and you're like, it's actually an Ironman. No, you son of a...
an Ironman
actually
is
the
a
hardest form of triathlon there is.
It's the toughest 24 hours in sports. All right, get real.
Can you tell people what an Ironman is, just so they can understand?
An Ironman is a triathlon by definition, but it's a 2.5 mile swim, it's a 112 mile bike ride, and then a marathon, back to back to back. It's a long day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were scheduled to do your first one.
Yeah.
Up until an hour to 2 hours prior.
That's right. I was in my wetsuit, Ironman California, and they had some pretty vicious weather roll in, so they canceled the race. I had trained for 9 months.
Not a typical place you'd get bad weather.
No. Oh man, their yearly rainfall is like 1.5 inches, and it rained 5.5 inches in 24 hours.
That's wild.
So it's just a tropical storm rolled through. They made the right decision. People would have gotten hurt or worse. And so trained for 9 months, and it didn't happen. And it was just like, well.
Devastating.
I signed up for it. I said I was going to do it. So now I tried finding a race, 3 weeks later, a month later. Just do it. Let me just do it. I've done all the work. And it didn't work. So we signed up for Des Moines in June. And I got into triathlon because Reg and I both were working a ton. And I was like, man, we need to do something together, And so we signed up for our first one in Shawnee Mission Park. I knew how to ride a bike. I knew how to run. I didn't know how to swim. And I was like, we're just going to do it because it's tough and we could do it together and it'll be great. And then it's led to I think I can do a little bit more. And then did a couple half Ironmans. Found out the hard way you need to really prepare yourself for those. And then I did a half, 2 half, 3 halves or whatever. And I was just like, nope, doing a full, just doing it. And so I've been training for the better part of a 1.5 years.
Yeah. So, and the thing that people should know about this is that, Freddie works a ton of hours. He manages all of our locations. He doesn't have a ton of free time, and he's still able to train. And, a lot of times it's, when I'm texting you in the morning, if you don't text me back right away, I already know that you're up. But if you don't text me back, you're in a pool.
Or I'm on a stationary bike or, on a run or something. And
simply in a pool. That's typically always what it is.
So
I've always been really inspired by that from you, because there's times where I got 3 kids and I got all excuses in the world to not get up and be active or stay consistent as far as exercise goes. But I always think to myself, well, I'm not swimming. How many miles do you swim a day? A week?
3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm not swimming 4 miles in a week. How far do you run?
I probably log 20 miles a week.
I definitely am not running 20, even though I run some 400s.
At the height of it, so at the thick of it, I'm probably 15 to 18 hours a week, and I'm riding probably 200 miles a week.
You have a part-time job, and that part-time job is doing exercise.
It cost me. It doesn't pay me. But no, it's got some benefits to it. I've learned a ton, man. I never thought I'd be into it. Like I said, I got into it originally because Reg and I could do it together. And naturally, I kind of provoke a little bit more. Let's just try this. Let's do this. And then all of a sudden, 18 hours a week, and I got a freaking carbon triathlon bike and shoes and all this other stuff, so
looking like a seal out there,
just freaking running for days, but I have learned a ton. And so it's been a lot of fun. But after this one's done in June, I'm looking forward to just not competing, in that for a minute.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah. It's up for debate.
So with all this exercising, we got a good first question for you. Freddie's favorite cheat food?
Oh, shit. I know this one.
Oh, donuts. I freaking love donuts, man.
Hey, I got a
cheat meal or
I got a sweet picture of Freddie deep throating a chocolate long john in the back of Overland Park.
Dude. Here's another fun fact about Freddie. Freddie had QT donuts at his wedding.
I did. I love
as the late night snack.
Quick Trip donuts. No, full course.
Oh hell yeah! It was the actual dessert.
You guys aren't getting cake. You're getting donuts from Quick Trip.
See, that's
my favorite donut.
That is legit.
You've worn a ton of different fitness apparels since you've worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite go-to fitness line?
Man, the new S2 stuff we came out with is really nice.
That's a company, man. I love it.
The performance paint is really nice, and then First Form mixed with Raglan t-shirts. I wish one of those could just be permanently sewn on my body.
Yeah, those are really just the most comfortable shirts.
They're great.
Man. If you didn't go pro in baseball, what sport would you have gone pro in?
Hockey. I freaking love watching hockey. I've always just been a fan.
You watched that game last night?
Loved it.
Oh, yeah.
For a minute.
Yeah. Who would win in a 100-meter dash, you or Kyle?
Me.
100 meters?
Are you going to challenge that?
100 meters.
100
Me
meters.
and you, Kiani, and Alex.
Dude, I'm going to have to stretch for like 30 or 45 minutes before I hit top speeds.
Last fall, legit sprinted 100 meters with Connor Leach. And I was like, I haven't done that in years. Dude. And it was just like, this is how people rip their hamstring.
Let's do
how
a
many
40.
body lengths did you?
Let's do a 40.
You remember the backyard football game? I
yes.
tore my hamstring.
Yes.
Yes. On the final play of the game.
Yeah. Same here.
If we do a 40, I'm in.
You're going to
100. Dude.
Okay, if we had to have a freaking power clean burpee race in 40 yards, you're going to win, Kyle.
No, I mean, just straight up 40 yards.
We want to do a 40-yard dash?
Yeah, 40-yard dash.
S2 combine. I'm going to win. I'm going to win.
I mean, you wouldn't beat me in a combine.
So you're telling me, wait a second, on the mic here, Kyle, you're going to say you would lose to you were going to say you're losing to Freddie at 100 meters.
I'm worried about my right hamstring at 100 meters. Freddie already knows.
My right hammy.
Don't.
You know what
Freddie's already knows that my body is not what it used to be.
Kyle's got some funny pictures of me. I've got some memories of it. Degenerated discs in Kyle's backs that have given out on him over time.
Dude, I mean, you'd worked for us for a little bit of time at that point. You were managing, right?
I was the only guy you trusted to call over to have you see in that state.
Yeah.
And I came over and he's like, I need help moving a grill. And I said, what? Okay, go out of the back of his truck. And Kyle had like a 1.5 herniated discs in the back, and his daughter's crying, and he can't get out of bed to pick her up. And I'm like, why are we doing this right now? He's like, it's got to get done. And his back just blew out.
I said, Kim, dude.
I blew out on him in the middle of moving that grill. So
next question. Hey, quit with the freaking side stories, Kyle. You're trying to get to know Freddie over here.
Sorry.
All right. Next one. You're going to any dessert you could possibly have. You said donuts are your favorite.
Answered this.
That's not true. He would not pick it.
Doesn't have to be desserts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm saying like
donuts don't have to be dessert.
Exactly. What I'm saying is
I
like you're ordering a dessert somewhere.
Good
What's
mentality.
the best dessert when you're with Reg and you're taking her out? Where do you guys go?
Oh, I know this one for you too. Real easy.
You don't know this shit.
Yeah, I do. Hey, you want me to answer this for you? This is how well I know Freddie. It would be the carrot cake at
God, he's good.
J. Alexander's.
J. Alexander's. What's it called? The
24 carrot cake.
It's actually from Chop House.
Or it's Chop House.
They call it something different. Oh, man. What do they call it at Chop House?
Just the best carrot cake of all time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't even know. She brought me a slice home one day, and I was like, man, that's the best piece of cake I've ever eaten.
You eat a lot of boring food. What's your favorite diet-friendly sauce to make it taste good?
Trader Joe's has like a verde hot sauce, like green hot sauce.
It's called Green Dragon.
Green Dragon. That's right.
Saucerman.
It's cool. But yeah, that's it.
I was like, when's the food trivia?
I have it every single day.
Green Dragon sauce. Does it taste more just straight up like Verde? You know what? I've never pulled the trigger because it's a big bottle. Hook it up.
Yeah. If you're wrong, it's a big bottle.
It's, I'm saying like when you got inventory like I do, it's a lot of fridge space.
That's right.
And I'm like, I don't know if I can roll the dice on such a giant bottle of Verde sauce.
It's got a little sneaky
I typically
heat to
don't
it.
like Verde, but man, I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Reg and I use it every single day.
I was there. I was literally at Trader Joe's last night eyeing it down. I'm like, all right, last one. Are you coaching your future child's teams?
Right now, my answer is no.
I love you.
I don't want to be
Keep focused on those stores, Freddie.
Yeah. No, I'm not doing it. My parents were never my coach, and so they always wanted me to do well, but it was always my idea to do well, not theirs. And I want to give my kids that same opportunity to let it be their idea.
I heard an interesting statement today, and it's just a parting thought. This guy who has amassed an unbelievable fortune. He said that he already has it. He's not had kids yet, but he wants to. And he said he's already had it done where they're like, him and his wife both have made great money. and they're literally pushing all of their money to the middle of the table, and no one else can have it. They're going to give it away to some, a charity of some sort, and like they're going to give $0 to their kids. How do you feel about that? Pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
But
he said very few people who have gotten, because this would be a massive amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
He said very few people who have gotten a massive amount of money have turned out better for it.
Dangerous. Yeah, I agree.
And so he's like, I got nothing, and I won't need anything, and I'm going to see what I can do with life on my own. And he's like, that's what I'm doing with my kids. And I was like, you know what? I've never put that much thought into it because I don't have kids. Mm-hmm. But this guy's already got his estate.
Well, you got to understand,
he doesn't have kids yet.
That if being born into that family, that kid is already going to grow up privileged.
For sure.
By proxy. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, Will Smith's
he's
kids
not going to
have
like
to do that much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he might not give them a lump sum, but their kids are already going to have the connections. They're going to have the, better lifestyle. Sure. There's going to be a lot of benefit to that kid's life.
He's even talking, I mean, like he's got generational wealth where it's like, it could go to, 20 people and they're all still well off.
You see it a lot in I think about this from time to time. I didn't make it to the major leagues. That was my goal as a kid. And I think to myself, did I learn things, or am I learning things right now that I can or could teach to my kids when they're 17, when they're 18, a perspective that they can, if that's a goal of theirs, that they can fulfill that, right? So you may not be giving that kid a big lump sum of money, but more than likely what it took to earn that lump sum of money is a certain mindset and a certain thought process on how to make decisions. And if you can teach that, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
In your professional career, if there's a way that you could try to surmise, maybe one of the more valuable lessons you've learned to this point, something you wish you could go back and tell 25-year-old Freddie when he first started with us, what would it be?
Stay humble. You don't know anything. And consistency wins long term.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better myself.
I agree with that.
Last parting question, as we ask everybody, as you well know, from being a heavy Protein Bros podcast listener,
forced into it, you better listen.
We're not even going to ask the question, Freddie. What's the answer? You're such a fan of the Protein Bros podcast.
You
Freddie.
Always listen to the end.
You listen
Freddie.
to every single one. So what's the last question we ask, and what's the answer?
Literally, Jesus.
I'm ruining the night of the podcast.
What is your favorite barbecue in Kansas City?
Oof.
Families in town, where are you taking them? Only got one spot to go. Careful thought.
Gates.
Wow.
All right, turn it off, dude. He didn't even think about it.
Fucking ketchup sauce?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
You didn't say it was the best sauce in KC.
Actually,
we've already gotten into that argument.
Gates does have great sauce, but all I'm saying, I bought it as a child even. We had it in St. Charles.
Eat a ton of barbecue. I'm sorry.
Like, clearly. I mean, we already know from what your answer was.
Gates.
If we'd have said, what's your favorite fitness appareler? And you probably would have said, like, I don't know, Russell.
Champion.
Russell Athletic.
I like that full cotton.
Yeah.
Champion sweats.
Man. Well, okay. Well, Freddie doesn't like barbecue.
My neighbor, shout out this little plug, Lazy Bacon Barbecue. Pretty awesome barbecue. So
Lazy Bacon?
Lazy Bacon.
Sounds like a solid name.
Block party. If and when it ever comes back, we're gonna hire Lazy Bacon.
It is coming.
Done deal.
Let's do it.
She is coming.
All right.
Block party. So anyways, dude, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Like I said, if
where can they find you, Fred?
Yeah, we're
Freddy Ford 19 or Freddy Ford S2 on Instagram, and just Fred Ford on Facebook.
Get a hold of this dude. And seriously appreciate you coming on, dude, and sharing your story. I learned a lot about you tonight that I didn't even know. You know what I mean? Even the independent league, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So pretty awesome story. If you guys liked what you were listening to, please subscribe. Please go ahead and share our podcast on your Instagram, share our YouTube, whatever it may be. Just appreciate you supporting the podcast. It's the only way we grow is if you tell a friend. And so we really, truly ask if you got to this point. We hope you enjoyed it and you do tell a friend. So thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.